This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Phantom Boxing, a brand new boxing company starting in 2019. They sent us a great discount code for awesome subscribers. If you go to their website at phantomboxing.com and you want to try any of their 3 boxing gloves with a new one coming soon, as well as their Cobra Reflex bag, you can save up to 10% off any and all purchases if you enter the code CombatCorp10 in the discount bar at checkout. That's CombatCorp10 for 10% off any and all purchases. Thank you and enjoy the show. All right, as they say in showbiz, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Combat Corporation, your source for combat sports. And here we have another installment of the podcast. We have Corey Norman with us, who, if you don't know who Corey Norman is, of course, how dare you? And for 2, Corey Norman is actually I believe you should be number 1, but you're the number 2 ranked in the Northeast, I believe, light heavyweight.
I don't know.
I think I'd have to look that up again, but I'm pretty sure he should be number 1 in my book, but he's either number 1 or number 2. I fought both the guys that are ranked up there. Yes, that's right. I had the pleasure to get my butt kicked by Corey Norman himself. He is the Cage Wars light heavyweight and cruiserweight champion. He's an undefeated amateur guy, and I'm going to talk to him a little bit about his whole career today, just see where he's going, talk about life in general. So first off, Corey, like I asked you a little bit earlier, why don't you tell everyone how you're doing with the whole coronavirus crisis?
I think I'm doing about as good as anybody can.
Right.
I made a little gym in the, basement of my house, and I've been working out there just about every day, trying to stay current and keep myself sharp. It's definitely a new normal to get used to for sure, but right. I've been trying. You and I have been sending videos back and forth. And stuff
Absolutely.
Like that. I've been trying, the combinations and stuff like that. And I tried the casting punch that you were showing, the overhand right into the drop step.
Yep.
Like that a lot. And I've just been working a lot of different things. So I definitely have to get used to fighting in very cramped spaces. So it could be advantageous. Who knows?
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've been trying to do that. For my students out there, I've been making lessons and trying to get those home. I'm in communication with some of them. Been trying to call some of them, but they haven't been picking up their phones. So
now, real quick. Yeah. When he says students, folks, he doesn't mean at the MMA gym. He means he's a high school teacher or middle school teacher.
Yes.
You teach 10th grade, correct?
So I have an 8th grade homeroom this year. But I also teach 10th grade social studies, 9th grade social studies, and 12th grade economics.
So he's very smart, everybody. That's another thing. Not only can he beat you up, but he's pretty smart and the whole tally. Sorry for cutting you off. Keep going.
No, it's all right. People are going to fact check you on that, and they're going to get upset, but that's all right. But yeah, I've been trying to, make contact because the population I work with is for at-risk and troubled youth. So,
good.
A lot of them have, are either emotionally disturbed or they have, some gang ties and stuff like that. So I've been really worried about a lot of them during all of this, because normally during, like a week break, right. During spring break or whatever, it'll be a struggle for them to kind of get back into the swing of things. And definitely with this, it'll be interesting when we do get back, kind of where they're at. But, I work with some of the best people in the business. Shout out to all the Gateway Longview crew. But yeah, so like I said, it's that has been probably the hardest part about it. One of the better, just being around, my 3 little monsters has been probably the best part of all of this.
Great.
We made tried to make some dream catchers today. And,
oh yeah, how'd that go? Oh man,
yeah.
That's awesome though. It must be good to be around your kids a little bit more, with everything.
Yeah.
Because you got. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all right.
No.
Isla is in 1st grade, and so she's been. I get to teach her, a little bit every day, just kind of with the distance learning that she's doing. So shout out to Mrs. Smith. Isla's doing great. She's caught up on just about all of her assignments.
Good.
Yeah, and then, Elena, my middle, has been very interested in a lot of the reading and stuff like that. More along the lines of Daddy, when are we going to learn about spiders? I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know.
Spiders?
Spiders.
Spiders.
I don't know how. Of all the things you could pick, why spider? Although we went on a hike the other day, and she is just as afraid of snakes as I am. When I
Are
found
you
that
afraid
out.
of snakes? Don't you have a tattoo of a snake?
No, I don't. I have a tattoo of a spider, of a tiny little spider, and that's fine. That's fine. No, I don't have a tattoo of a snake.
Well, you want to be reminded of what scares you, I guess.
Oh.
No. So the next opponent you have, I'm gonna just tell them, all right, get a tattoo of a snake or wear snakeskin gloves or something like that, and you'll be set. You'll be set.
Oh, God. That legitimately makes me cringe.
Oh man, see, that's me with spiders. I don't like spiders, but if she wants to learn about it, Corey, why don't you have a pocket manual or like a a graph of like the anatomy of like a daddy long legs or something, man?
We had talked about all of the body parts. We absolutely. I'm like, well, spiders only have 2 body parts, thorax and an abdomen. She's like, oh yeah. I'm like, you have no idea.
They got 8 legs. Those are body parts, technically. I guess
Yeah.
appendages, but oh man, but that's awesome. So it sounds like you're having a really good time, and especially now that you can't technically train full time at the moment, like you were. If you can say full time, you're still. I imagine you're going hard about 3 hours out of the day, if I had to guess, or more.
I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, sure. Now, if you want to see his, if you want to see his workouts, actually, if you go to his Facebook page and his Instagram page, I think he posted 1 or 2 little snippets, and we'll post those in the link description below as well. You can see all his exercises. I know I try and follow them as much as I can. I can't really lift like this monster can. He's one of the strongest people I've ever tied up with. So you should. You're number 2. You're number 2, Corey. Just because if you've ever tied up with this dude, it was just weird. His name was Jake Grossbeck. He was on my team, and I remember shaking his hand once. I'm like, "What in the fuck is this?" Like I couldn't understand it. I still don't.
No, it's funny you say that. Still like so like a lot of the workouts that I do and like try to to create, or I usually try to get some kind of I call them like farm work or like iron work exercises in there, because I swear to God, every single. So I grew up in Vermont, and every other person is a farmer of some kind. I swear to God, every single time you meet like an old timey farmer who's like over 40, like you shake their hand, you're like, no, I don't feel like that. Like they just like they grit. You feel like the bones in your hand just start to connect. You're like, no, like I don't want to do that ever. Yeah, no. And like people who used like my great uncle Teeny used to be a milkman during the Depression, and he would like lift like the milk cans like up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's fine, like I'll do that as training. And I get one, I fill it up halfway, and I'm just like trying to like heave it. I'm like, what in the hell? And he's like, oh yeah, no, you just get down, you grab her goddamn her, you pick it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Like people don't realize, they have no clue like what that kind of just like the repetition of hard work like that, what that can do. Like people who, one of the strongest guys that I ever met, like husked corn for like all of his life and just like ripping. And like, but it's same thing. Like you grab somebody's hand, you shake it, and you're just like, no, I 100% no, I don't ever want to feel that kind of force directed at me in a negative way.
Yeah, and that's the thing, going back, because I did mention that you and I have punched each other once or twice. That I knew like the moment he gripped me in our fight, I'm like, I gotta avoid that, because that's like normally, like for me, I like to think that I'm naturally stronger than a lot of people, but I remember like he grabbed me in a clinch. I'm like, I gotta get away from that. I said, I can't beat that. He's too strong. So once again, you want to see what he does, how to get that strong. I'm sure you're not revealing all his secrets, but go to your Facebook and your Instagram page. There's a lot of stuff on there. I know I try and follow as much as I can. I can't lift though. My body's just, I'm a potato. So, but that's a different story. But so what I want to do is, because you mentioned Vermont, and your father was a Greco-Roman wrestler. I believe you were saying he was primarily a Greco guy, right?
So he wrestled in Pennsylvania. Okay. I don't know the extent of the Greco that he did, but I know that was he definitely wrestled in Pennsylvania. And I want to say he wrestled at like 135 or 155. If he sees this, I'm sure I'll get a phone call correcting me. But yeah, and he was pretty good. He was pretty good.
That's awesome. So that's one thing too. It was with that, because you mentioned when I met you, And by the way, guys, I've never met someone nicer in my entire life, especially when you're about to like go and fight each other. Normally, coming from boxing or anything else, it's like, I'm not your friend. I don't want to talk to you. But it was hard not to because you're like, hey, man, how are you? You gave me a hug of all things. I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. And you said that your father taught you primarily your wrestling, I believe is what you said. Is you didn't wrestle in high school. You never did anything like college wrestling or high school wrestling, middle school. You didn't even do pee-wee wrestling. But how exactly did you learn your wrestling? And another thing, people, that is Corey's not. If you call him a submission grappler, that's more accurate. But if you call him a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, you'd be dead wrong. He's a catch wrestler. He's a catch as catch can wrestler. And one thing, I think you said your neighbor taught you that too.
So that was
go into the whole history of where you learned all this stuff from, because that's a big mystery for me.
Okay, so I mean, I kind of got started, like I said, like I learned from my dad, and it was small stuff here or there. Like it was like I gotta get down on the floor and he'd try to push me over, like small stuff like that. Right. And I remember doing that when I was like 5 or 6, and me and my sister both trying to move him or whatever. He'd be like, no, and just like throw you on the ground or whatever. Jesus. And I remember like doing that like more and more and more, like trying to figure it out and figuring it out and figuring it out. Just falling down and just kind of getting up. And after doing that, you pick stuff up. A good friend of mine did some submission wrestling and some catch wrestling, and I learned that from him. And and that honestly, like I really didn't. I mean, I didn't really start doing striking in a boxing sense until I graduated college back in 2007, and I started doing that. And I started working with Kevin Cunningham out at Casey's Fitness in Buffalo. And I worked on my hands, and I worked on my Muay Thai. I worked with Stone Horse Goman, who actually was John Jones's Muay Thai teacher. And then I worked with Gene Mills for a little bit. I learned a little bit from him.
Okay, so that explains your wrestling. Gene Mills. Yeah, I've worked with, oh my God. Pin to win combat. Absolutely. Yep. Okay, so you worked with the man himself. That explains everything.
And I loved, I mean, Gene is, it when I'm listening to him, like, give instruction, it's like watching a Tasmanian devil turning into a werewolf. Like, yes. It's like he's like, okay, yes. Okay. And just trying to do that. And like I said, I didn't work with him that much. I did a seminar with him, and then I would go down with Stone Horse probably 3 or 4 times, and that was kind of it. My submission wrestling, as far as like my shots and my takedowns, I took that from a couple of wrestlers that I worked with, Andy Case, who coaches the Pee Wee program out here, a couple of UB wrestlers, and just worked with them. But a lot of like my guard game, my rubber guard game, my half guard game, a lot of the submissions off of my back and transitions, a lot of the new submissions, the submission chains that I do, is a lot of that self-taught. Right. Like a lot of a lot of the submissions that I know are self-taught. There are a couple that, no matter what way you slice it, an armbar is an armbar. It just depends on the position that you get it. And the same thing goes for, any kind of a torque lock or any kind of a choke. Like, there's really not that many chokes. It's really, like, I want to say it's like 23 or 24 different chokes, and it's either arm in, arm out, legs in, legs out. Like, that's really it. Right. And so just trying to find the different positions that you can hit those, and the different ways that you can, crank on them and torque them. But a lot of the ground game and a lot of my submission work has been, it's kind of like, I'm just saying it's like jazz. I don't know if that makes sense because I don't play an instrument.
It does to me, but
yes. Oh, good.
I went to school for music. I know. I understand what you're saying.
But like I understand the basics, and I've done it enough where like it's like, okay, I can improvise. Like I know, I kind of know what I'm doing, and I know how to get back home from here. So it's like, all right, I'm just gonna do this. Right. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it fails spectacularly. So.
Yeah. So what was it? Did you ever just grab a friend? You're like, hey, this is going to sound weird, but can I strangle you for about 2 hours so I can learn this? Is that basically what it was?
So, all right. So my very best friend, Hayoke Chukwu, so his family is, he and his family from Nigeria, and my other best friend, hey Andrew, we used to have these like slumber parties and sleepovers when we were in high school,
Yeah.
and we used to beat the hell out of each other, just like in the basement.
Right.
And it was basically like mini smokers, essentially. Like we would like and Fight Club hadn't even come out yet. And this is dating myself, but yeah, we would just beat the hell out of each other. We'd have all of our other friends over, and it was just like so I think the first time that I ever really got to like try out submissions was in my basement and like putting holes in like the drywall like by my room and stuff like that. And yeah, just kind of working from that point. But and then in college, I started fighting a little bit, having a couple matches here or there.
Yeah. Tell the story of why you did those fights.
So I didn't know that they were illegal in the area that I was going to school in, and a couple of gentlemen who were there just kind of pointed out that that was an opportunity, and so I went there, and they were a little inebriated at the time,
Yeah.
and I was not. I don't really drink all that much, although this quarantine I have been definitely having a few more cocktails than normal. And I was in the crowd, and this guy was going around. He's like, I'll pay, $50 to anybody who gets in the ring and last, 5 minutes or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, this seems super reputable. And so, I was, I don't know how old I was, 19, 20 maybe. So I was just doing like, catch and submission wrestling. So I had no striking.
Right.
And he's going around. And he's like, oh yeah, And so my friends really like, hell that. And I was like, oh no, I won't. And the guy was like, $100. I was like, no, I can't do this. This is ridiculous. And I was like, 300. I was like, no. He was like, I'll buy your books. I was like, so yeah, let's do that. And so yeah, got my books bought and went from there.
And what you do?
And,
just take the guy down and choke him out or something? Or
no, like he did. I don't even remember his name. Shoot, yeah, I don't even remember his name. But no, he tried to take me down, pulled guard, tried to get me in an arm bar, and I ended up standing up, and I like had my hands kind of gripped together, and I basically did like a clean and jerk, and I like jerked up, and I just dropped him, and he hit the side of his head, and it was like the ring was not up to spec.
Okay.
I had no idea what it was. I have no idea what it's made of. Like I said, super reputable. And so his head hit the canvas, and he ended up like he had hit his shoulder, and he went limp for a moment, and then I like jumped on top of him like I was going to keep hitting him, and the ref just jumped in. He was like, no, that's it. I was like, oh, I was like, yeah, completely meant for that to happen.
Right.
So, and then I just I tried doing that a few more times, and then I found out that it was illegal, and I was just like, oh my god, I broke the law. I was like, oh no, like I thought like cops were gonna come like pouring into like my dorm room anymore, and I was like, you know who I am? I'm like, this is so I really didn't do anything until I graduated college, and I had a couple of fights, and then I fought in October of 2008 or October of 2007, and then that was my last fight for about 10 years.
Right.
And I went and I got my master's degree. And in that time, I got married, and I had Isla, and then Elena, and then the girl's mom got pregnant with Nora, and it was about the time that we started having some pretty serious marital strife and issues.
Right.
And some of the things centered around MMA and the choices that I felt like everybody hates the idea of regret, and I definitely I own all of the mistakes that I made in my marriage, so that's on camera, Beth. And I definitely I did a lot of things that I wasn't proud of in the final stages of that, but it was something that I've grown exponentially as a person because of that.
Right.
And for whatever happens between me and the girl's mom, I mean, and she will always be an integral part of that, right, wrong, or indifferent. But so after that, I started training again and getting a lot more invested into it. And then I was started seeing very inspirational young woman, and started talking to me about getting back in MMA. I was like, I'm way too old for this. Like, there's no way that I can get back in this. Did you come to say hi?
Hi there.
Fine. Al doesn't want to say hi to you either. Are you getting your doctor bag? Okay. Is everybody okay? Are you stitching anybody? Is anybody bleeding?
Nobody.
Okay, good. That's a good thing.
I love it.
Yeah. And so you told me, what else do I have to lose? And so I contacted a bunch of different organizations, and Tim at Cage Wars was the first one to write back to me.
Right.
And I told him what was going on, and he's like, "Yeah, we'd love to have you come down and fight." And we got this guy named Nick Spencer, and if you want to sign on the line, he's ready for it. I was like, "Yeah, let's do this." So that was kind of how I got into it.
See, that's how we met Corey, because honestly, I don't mean to bash, because now we know. But anyway, Nick and I were good friends because we met through Cage Wars. He was going to fight my high school bully. That was, believe it or not, on my MMA team at the moment. So I went down to EGA to prepare him to kick my high school bully's ass because I hated him. So wait.
So your high school bully was on the same MMA team as you?
Yes, sir.
I see. Okay, all right. I put those pieces together. All right, I got you.
Yeah. I hated that kid because we were on the same wrestling team, and in high school I was not very good at wrestling whatsoever, and I'm the first one to admit that. But he used.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean it. In high school, I really wasn't that good, and this kid, beat me in wrestling a lot. He pinned me every time I wrestled with him, and he always used to say, "You suck, you suck, you suck." So the moment he came into my MMA gym, I pretended that my grappling sucked, that my wrestling sucked. I said, "Yeah, I'm still learning with boxing. I've been doing it since I was 12." And so my coach, because he saw this guy, he's just like, "Oh man, Al's going to be the first one to let him start." I must have knocked the shit out of this kid for 25 minutes. I was like, just got all my frustrations in the world out. And then finally Duff, I used to train with MVMMA. Duff pulled me off. He's like, "Al, you can't beat him up like that, man." And then after that, I ruined the experience for him because he never struck after that. And then he was going to fight Nick, who's a Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. So I just said, "Yeah, he doesn't like to strike, so please just knock him out, please." And so I went down once or twice, worked with him and his team. And that's how I got associated with him. So then when we saw Corey Norman on the poster, there was 0-0, which turns out to be baloney. Baloney. But so we're like, "Oh, it's his first fight." And we had no idea about your background. And he sent a video of you hitting pads, I think, or something. And normally I don't read into film because coming from wrestling, who cares? You're going to wrestle him anyway. But I said, I'm like, "Oh, cool. Just step around, hit him this angle, hit him that angle. That's fine." What we didn't know is that Corey probably has a black belt level of grappling experience. And Nick at the time was a brand new purple belt. And when you hit him with the uppercut and put him on Career Street and then took him down, I'm like, "What just happened?" I said, I'm sitting there cage side. I'm like, "Get up, Nick. That's bullshit." Like, I'm like, "You're fine." I said, "It's just a high school headlock. You're fine." And then then next thing I know, his arm goes like, boop. I'm like, "What?" And so I go to Tim. I just lost my last fight. I said, "I want to fight him." And that's what I said. I immediately said, "I want to fight him. That will not happen to me." And although that didn't happen, I still got a good look at that fight. We were all shocked after that. That's when we knew, we're like, Corey's not going to lose for a while. And that's what we realized with it, is because we had no idea who you were. We saw one video of you hitting pads, and that was it. And we're like, "Oh, we're going to smoke this guy." No, that did not happen. And then I start talking to you after, and that's when I start going to train with you. I realized you have a whole bunch of savages at your gym. And I'm like, okay.
I hope that they don't see this interview because that's going to go to their head that you just said that.
No, because I remember going there and I tied up with Jason, and I quite literally got picked up off my feet and thrown a good 7 feet the other way. I'm like, oh, this is why. This explains everything. And then I started talking to you about your background. And because Nick and I still after we lost, it's like, man, if we did that again, then I start telling Nick, I'm like, you wouldn't believe the experience this guy actually has. And he's like, I'm not mad anymore. Is all it was. We thought we lost to someone that didn't know what they were doing, honestly, is what we were. But obviously when I fought you and you gripped me, I'm like, there's no way he's never done nothing before.
Well, like I mean, and everybody talks to me like, oh, where'd you wrestle? Where'd you wrestle? Where'd you wrestle? Like I mean, wrestling, honestly, like I mean, like I said, fooling around with my dad and like picking up,
Right.
how to do parterre stuff minimally isn't
Right.
like it's not wrestling experience. Like it really just does come down to like, I mean, the hard work that I put in at KC,
Absolutely.
and the hard work that I put in at, I mean, even when I was an undergrad, like my roommates just like being willing to do like, Greco swimming with me for like hours and just being like, all right, Steve, you're tired. All right, Chris, sub in, and just like working that and like just doing like random stuff. Like there's oh shoot, they had to change the carpet in one of our common area halls at Elmira because there was so much blood on the floor
Oh my
from
God.
from just like training and stuff like that. And like we heard about it, like we got like an intercampus email. It was like, oh, due to the amount of blood stains on the floor, and we're just like, oh God, what heathens? Who would do that?
Sorry, Alex just texted. Oh, okay. That's not important. I didn't say that. I didn't say that text wasn't important.
For you to edit that out.
But yeah, and you said you wrestled with some UB guys too, University of Buffalo, for people that don't know
Yeah,
what UB
I mean,
is.
a couple of them come down. The one of them caused this, hunk of cartilage on the side of my head. But yeah, like every now and then, like they would come down just looking to work on, boxing, honestly. And then, Kevin would turn to me and be like, oh, this guy, does catch, he does submission wrestling, he does a little bit of Muay Thai. If you want to learn from him, come on in. And I would see them and be like, let's just wrestle. Well, let's just wrestle. Together. And we would do like different ridiculous drills and stuff like that, like doing duck walks with 45-pound plates and just being like, this is awful. Let's do some more. Like, it's just it becomes like, and I know I've said this, but like to say that it's an obsession and I'm addicted to it is an understatement, because it's just I see a new exercise or I see like a new technique and I'm just like I want to do that until I can't do it wrong. But
that was the saying in music school is an amateur will do it 100 times till they get it right once. A professional will do it till they can't possibly get it wrong again. Is basically what it was, and that's one thing. Like I said, just watching you do stuff. Like when I sent you the video, I'm like, I'm sure of the overhand into the drop and then the uppercut into the drop, and I'm like, I'm sure he's seen this 1,012 times. You're like, I've been drilling this for 3 days, and I'm like, what? I said, really? He's just like, I've been drilling this for 3 days.
And I was like, and like I was doing it in the same spot, because I've got these like dinky little mats that start getting like a divot in like the mat. I was like, I've got to move, like I can't. And so like I'll like find like where my feet go. I'm like, oh, this, and like I can literally like walk the steps now for like that one drill or for that one side, and then the opposite side is like for my unorthodox stance. So I've got to switch that up or change the mats so I don't do that.
Absolutely, but that was always one thing I liked, is because I've gone up 3 or 4 times up to your place now, like 3 times I'd say, and each time, I think I held mitts for you once or twice, and then I had to be like you were with the Buffalo guys. I'm like, you gotta show me some catch stuff. You know what I mean? Because I remember you showed me like a couple things into the heel hooks and stuff, and I had a tournament quite literally the next day in Saratoga Springs, and I'm like, I'm gonna use it. And the very first thing I did in my absolute match, I'm like, kick, and I got it, and I'm like, woo! I said it works. So
awesome.
And so that was when I really got into like reading up on catch wrestling and the history of catch wrestling and stuff. I'm probably like a little nerd now. Like, because I'll message him every now and again and just literally see like, so did Billy Robinson do that? And what was Carl Gotch like? Was it true Abraham Lincoln was a catch wrestler? Stuff like that.
Was.
Yes, yeah. And it turns out he was a pretty damn good one too. but I started doing that, and then I still want my belts, but at the same time, I'm more into I just want to know stuff, because I started noticing from working with him and reading a bunch of catch wrestling stuff, I started to do significantly better in my no-gi competitions after
Oh
that.
yeah.
And that was the one thing that always helped because I was told wrestling's going to get you in trouble, even in no-gi, especially with your shots and all this other stuff. And it just turns out to be not true. You just need to do specific things so you don't get in trouble. And that's it.
Right.
So, like, I know now when someone gets a guillotine and I'm standing up, it's like just lift them up in the air and gently put them down, and then you're fine.
Or not to, or actually, so it's funny. The memories on Facebook keep coming back, and it'll be like, especially this month. Usually, there's a statewide or New York State Championships for submission wrestling that takes place in Fredonia, New York.
Oh, cool.
And I've won that 5 times. So I've won that 5 or 6 times. 5 times. And the one of the times that I went was against one of my former students named Darren Foote, who trains out at Lake Effect Jiu-Jitsu here, and
Lake Effect.
I like the name too.
That's brilliant. I like it. You're right next to the Finger Lakes, correct? That's where Buffalo is.
No, it's a Great Lake. So it's
Great Lake. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, Lake Erie.
Lake Erie.
I teach geography. I should know that.
Lake Effect. Sorry.
But no, that's all right.
Jesus.
So, I went for a 2-on-1 control of his right arm, and I had my head down, and he literally jumped into a guillotine. And this is somebody that I trained with for like 2.5 years, and I'm doing it, and I'm waiting for him. Like, he knows what I'm gonna do, and sure enough, I just picked him up and I dropped him and landed like right on him, and I just and he ended up tapping out like maybe 3 or 4 seconds later, and that the memory of that just came up. So yeah, I mean the defense for a lot of those holes that a lot of BJJ guys see, or submission artists see in wrestling, can be really easily mitigated by gravity,
right?
Or even just pressure. And I think a lot of people, when they're grappling, they take a stance of just trying to flow and just trying to figure out how to untie and tie the knots and try to see the holes in people's games based on position, and that's great. That's fantastic. But takes work.
Because
it takes a lot of work.
It shocked me in one of my matches because I remember you showed me like quite literally a power half Nelson, and
yeah.
I forget how much those things suck in wrestling, And I just remember going into another competition. It's like, I saw a perfect opportunity for a power half. I did it, and the dude tapped. I'm like, why are people not doing this? It doesn't make any sense to me. I was seeing the gi competition. I still suck. I'm not even going to try and sugarcoat that. I hate the gi so much simply because it's like, haha, I just took away everything I grabbed your robe. But it's amazing because no-gi, they'd be like, why are you going into like intermediate or advanced and beating those guys? But yeah, white belt gi, I just smoked you. It's like,
so
wrestling.
What was it? Eddie Bravo probably is the best quote that I've ever heard anybody say, and I'm probably gonna mess it up, but he's like it's like having a Ferrari or a convertible and having to drive it through school zones the entire time you own it. Like, yeah. And something like, and that just makes sense. Like, it's just like, yeah, like it slows it down. I've never really grappled with a gi.
Right.
I've done judo here and there, and takedowns with a gi are just, it's like, you might as well sit down. Yeah. I mean, it's gonna go, and it's not to. I'm not saying by any means that judo is easy. I'm saying that somebody's gonna hit the floor pretty soon when you've got a gi.
Right.
Whether you use gravity just to pull them on top of you, or if you're any good as a judoka and you can throw them, then great. But yeah, like it's just different, and I've never done it, and I'm not taking away from people who do. It's not my preference, and from what it sounds like, it's not your preference either.
Right. No, it's really not, because I used to practicing it. I didn't mind because it's something new. You know what I mean? And that's really, and it's kind of silly to me, I guess. Like my school, not so much Utica Combat Athletics. Like we do a lot more no-gi stuff. We're all wrestlers. You walk in there, there's a state champion over there, a national guy from college over there. We're all hard to grind wrestlers. And my coach was a wrestler, and he actually learned from Eric Paulson and a couple other guys when he was in school. So he has more. He says I'm more because I said, "Are you a catch wrestler?" He said, "No, I wouldn't say that." He said, "I would say I'm a very hard style jujitsu guy." If you
Yeah.
know, and so in the gi, we know basic sweeps and we know basic stuff. But even my coach admits, he's like, "I'm probably the only black belt on the planet that cannot show you every gi choke in the world."
Yeah.
It's just that's just what it was. And so whenever we have someone like we have a guy Jeremy at our gym who just got his purple belt a couple months ago in the gi, it's like you can roll with anyone else in the gym, right?
Right.
No gi, I've never been mauled quite like that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you guy up with him's like, please God, just help me. You know, it's just stuff like that. So I still do the gi classes because that's how you advance in jiu-jitsu. That's how you get your belts, which I don't necessarily agree with.
Right.
But at this point, it's just like it's just a freaking colored cloth around my waist. I don't care, you know, because I come from sports like wrestling, boxing. It's just like you know how you knew you were getting ahead is you start winning stuff, and
Yeah.
that's all it was. So after I started working with you, I'm like, why do I care about this freaking belt so much? You know, it's a cool thing like to learn progress, I guess, but
Right.
I don't really care for it anymore after that. But
And I get that. Like I get the I get the idea of why people ascribe to it. I mean, it's the same reason that people. And I'm not saying that this is an apples to apples comparison.
absolutely,
I'm saying I understand the idea behind wanting to see your progression is exactly the same thing as leveling up in a video game. Like
Yeah.
you can see your progression. You know what it is. It's like no, I did this.
right.
And I get that. And in catch, there's really not anything like that. I mean, there's some debate about the history about like certain types of tattoos, kind of representing the amount of times that you've gotten that submission in the ring or however many times you trained it and stuff like that. I get a few of those on me, but it's it kind of it just depends on what you want to prescribe to, and it's a truly it's become or was a truly American style of self-defense.
Right.
And yeah.
Because what people don't really know is that it actually wrestling for the longest time was quite literally just upper body stuff. There was just Greco-Roman way back in the old days, and and Billy Robinson said it best. And so you do the better impression than I do, but he I'm not even going to attempt it. But he said, people call a double wrist lock a Kimura. He says there's stone plates in the museums of like Greece that have a double wrist lock on it. It's like you can't sit there and tell me it's called the Kimura.
Can't tell me that's called a Kimura now. Yeah.
so I remember watching that, and then I started reading into the history of it, and then people don't know that folk style and freestyle derived from catch wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
It was entirely because people are like, yeah, this whole twisting each other's like face off isn't, let's make it more friendly. Because
they took those out.
Yeah, because basically what it was in folk style, gets that catch wrestling thing. Because in freestyle, you take someone down like 10 seconds later, boop, neutral, and you're back. Whereas in folk style, the name of the game is to kind of make it painful and keep them down there. And that's why people are like, why are American wrestlers like not as good? Right? Yeah, and especially that's why you see people like Colby Covington. He might not have won nationals, but that dude had the most riding time that his college history's ever seen.
Right.
And that's why I always tell people I think American style wrestlers are way better because we were drilled from a young age, keep them down, tight waist grind,
maintain it, yeah,
keep them there.
Returns, yep.
Whereas you get to other European countries and they take them down and they just kind of sit there like Yoel Romero. It's a perfect example. The dude takes you down and just kind of lets you pop back up for a second. And that's really it. Then he'll go right back to it. Realistically, if he could hold you down, he could. Don't get me wrong, but but that was the one thing. But speaking about Olympians, now we're gonna rush into your fight career. You fought a Greco-Roman Olympian, in which I believe he took 8th. He placed in the top 10, I believe.
I believe that's accurate.
And you beat him. you took the man down and pinned him.
I did. Yes.
Hamdi Abdelwahab was the fight, I believe. Did you have another fight after ours, or was it just right into Hamdi after that?
No, it was right into Hamdi.
So
they were going to give me a couple of fights. There was supposed to be that fight was supposed to be Yuri actually.
Yep.
So Yuri, and then Yuri hurt his knee. And by the way, Yuri, hey, good to see that you're back up and running. The footwork looks great. I hope speedy recovery. But yeah, that was supposed to be our fight, and then he hurt his knee. And they were going to give me somebody else from that. I don't know what it was, some big name team in New York City or from around New York City. But it was a Russian, and I can't even remember his name right now. But and then he ended up pulling out because they didn't think that he was going to make weight. And then they asked me if I wanted to do the catch weight with Hamdi. And I was like, yeah, sure. And then they were like, he is an Olympian. I was like, yes, sure. And they're like Olympics. And I was like, yes, I understood.
I understand what you're saying.
They're like, in wrestling. I was like, I understood what that was too. And they're like, and he's bigger than you. I was like, most people are.
Hamdi is a big dude. Like on the footage, he looks thick, but in person, I'm like, oh my. Like when he got mad after the whole thing, we will get into that too. But I remember Kyle Kaler and Andrew Geiser were about to go. I'm like, move! And I'm like screaming, get out of the way. Because he starts storming back, no, this is number one bullshit. No, like screaming and stuff. Corey won the fight by disqualification. Granted, you were winning the whole fight up until, but you got hit about 20 times to the back of the head. So
it was a lot, yeah.
Yeah. Is that the first time you've ever been like wobbled in your life too? Because you got up, you weren't on steady feet.
So, like I remember as the farther away I get from the fight, like the more that I remember, and it's either it's because I remember or I've seen it. I remember like I was trying to Granby when he was on the side, and he had control of my left hand, so that should have actually made the Granby even easier. But when he was hitting me in the back of the head, my right arm that I was going to use to kind of post up to try to get the Granby wasn't working. Like he had hit me with the first punch in the back of the head, like my right arm just I couldn't feel it. And then it was like I only felt two of them. And then by the time that I kind of rolled back up and over, Steve was right there. I thought the fight was done. Like I thought he had like tagged me on the side of the jaw or something like that. And I'm like, I'm just doing like a double check. I was like, okay, I lost. Okay. So when I got up, I thought I lost.
Right.
And I was like, okay. And I even like, you see on the tape, like I even when they had me over in the corner, they're like, do you want to keep going? I was like, yes, I want to keep going. And they're like, can you keep going? I was like, yes, I can keep going. And the doc said something to Steve about the number of times that I was hit, and I couldn't hear the rest of it. And then at that point, that's when they called it. But like I remember getting up. I remember walking over. And
were you out?
I don't think so. No, like that's the thing. No, like I remember getting up. I remember getting in the cage. I remember talking to Steve. I remember talking to the doc. I remember seeing Ed and hearing Ed.
Shout out to Ed Kenner. I love that.
Yeah.
Man. Oh my
shout
God.
out to Ed Kenner.
I swear to God, if your phone goes off in this meeting, I'm pulling your fight. I love it. That's my favorite quote in the whole world. It's like, if you fart during this meeting, I will pull your fight. I don't care.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a separate story. But yeah. So I got up, I got over there. Like I said, I just put my butt against the cage, and they're asking me, and I thought they asked me like 7 different questions, and it was really only one question: can you continue? And I was like, yeah. And he asked me how many times I was hit in the back of the head, and I was like 2. I was like, I got hit twice, and Steve was like, no, like that's not it. And then like he and the doc were talking, I couldn't hear them.
Right.
And I don't know if that was from the hits or what. But then like they waved their arms out. I was like, okay, it's done, whatever. I went over to Hamdi, and like I said, you can see on this, like I was telling him, congratulations. I was like, it happens. He's like, no, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit you in the back of the head. I was like, no, like I said, it happens. So I assumed that the first 2 that I felt to the back of the head were that, and then he just, hit me on the side of the ear or whatever and put me away.
Right.
And then I started hearing everybody in the crowd starting to like boo him and like start shouting at him. And then like everybody was starting to talk, and like Mike Falvo was on my right or something like that, and he was like starting to he's like so Norman won, and like confirming it. And then Hamdi started to call him ballistic, and I went over to him like while he's going nuts, and I was like, hey, it's okay. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, I didn't want to win this way. I was like, we can do this again. I was like, whatever. And he was losing it, and that was it. But that was
yeah.
That's that's a hard one. I was actually just talking about that last night. As far as like people saying like, oh, you're 5-0. It's like, am I really like? But
Right.
that's I would have that's one of those things where I'm like, man, if he hadn't hit me in the back of the head, I would have out of Granby, gotten guard, and then we could have gone from there and and figured it out and actually known. I'm pretty sure that I won round 1, and round
Pretty
2
sure.
I was out striking him.
Yeah, pretty sure. Okay.
Listen.
Okay. You tag him with a couple of hooks, a good couple jabs, and you single leg the Olympian, although he might have been. I remember training with you, and I said, he was only a Greco Olympian. Might get a leg attack. You're like, Al, don't put that in my head.
I did. So here's the thing. The moment that I was like, as he was like backing me up, I was like, if he swings real hard again while we're against the cage, I was like, he's going to be open for that single leg. And I thought for a brief second, I was like, Al would really like that. And he throws the hook, and I got in the single. I was like, no. And I moved him and then dumped him, and I was like, what? No, that didn't happen.
Well, because Tim was up by the cage, but he said, do you think Corey can do what he did to you? I said, I don't know, but I know he's a better grappler, is what I said. He's like, what do you mean? I said, if it hits the mat, Corey's got him. And he's like, you think so? I'm like, I know so. Yeah, I said, he's a Greco-Roman guy. I said, I'm sure his leg attacks are fine. Don't get me wrong. But I said, I don't know how long he's been training. I don't know what he's been doing. But I can tell you that Corey's one of the better. He's a catch wrestler, so he's going to know how to counter a bunch of stuff. I said, I think if it was honestly a jiu-jitsu black belt in there, I think it would have been a different story, just because you understand, nose to the grindstone stuff. Jiu-jitsu guys are like, I'll pull guard against this beast. Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way. So I told, and a couple other people, like Nick was in the back. He said, how do you think this is going to go? I said, I think Corey's going to win by decision, and I think people are going to be surprised he's going to out-wrestle him. They're like, I said, he's going to out-wrestle him. I'm telling you, he's going to get his leg. That's it. How do you know? I say, I never get taken down with leg attacks like that, like in strict wrestling, and I get taken down by that all the time by Corey. Most people, I normally get tossed because I like that stuff, but in the cage, I still got to learn. You're the reason why I'm like, hey, cage work might be important, but because I'm like in the center of the ring, I'm like, hey, I can win here. And then against the fence, I'm like, what do I do? what does one do here? But, and everyone was shocked by my answer. And I'm like, the first round comes out and they're all looking at me like, I'm like, I told you. I said, he's better than you guys think. Way better.
And it's funny because so after that fight, I started getting so many emails and Instagram messages about hey, where'd you wrestle, bro? Where'd you wrestle? I'm like, no, I don't.
Nowhere.
And then it would die off from that. It was like, oh, this guy just doesn't want to talk. I was like, I didn't wrestle any with people.
But so the fight before that, 2 fights before that, you fought Nick. You hit him with I think it was double jab, right hand, left hook, right uppercut. If I'm not right, I got photographic memory with that. So
hold on one second.
Sure.
I know it's a giant towel. Grammy sent it. Who else is Grammy going to send it to? She didn't send that for me. That won't fit on me.
Oh, it's my size?
I can check right now. What it looks like is this a caterpillar? Let's see. So this is so normally at this time, my kids would be in San Francisco with their grandmother. Hi, Mom. And she sent, honey, I have no earthly clue. Oh, it's a butterfly. It's a butterfly.
Oh, that's cool.
I love butterflies.
I know. Do you want me to put it on you? All right, I'll put it on. Is this Nora's? Honey, I think this is Nora's.
I think it is.
I think it is too. I don't think this is too small for you. Oh, actually, never mind. Daddy figured it out. That's all right. See, there's the master's degree to work. All right, let's do it. All right.
Well,
you wrap up with it?
See, it's funny. A lot of people, they'll ask me, you went to school for music? Yeah. What do you do for a living? I'm an athletic director.
Can you say hi?
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
This is Al.
No.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, Al.
Hi. Which one? I'm sorry. I know you. This is Isla?
This is, what's your name?
Jamie.
Hi.
Elena.
Hi. Hi, Elena. How are you? Good?
He asked how you were. He can see you. You're right up there. It's just like FaceTiming with Grammy. Oh, now you're bashful. Okay.
I understand. I'm scary to look at. I'm sorry.
Yes, there it is. What are you in? Is Isla still sleeping?
Yep.
Okay. All right. You know, go keep playing.
Okay.
All right. Go keep playing. Thank you.
There is another one.
I know there's another one. Do you want to wear this for a while?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can do that. All right. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I love that. I love kids. I love kids. One day when Alex is out of school, maybe. But what is it? What was I talking? So you caught Nick with a couple shots, and then you got was it a lat drop or a headlock? Hip toss.
It was a lateral drop.
Yeah, and then you caught him in the arm triangle, and so you got that. You got the head and arm, and then you and I, which once again was that the moment. See, for the first couple minutes, like you kicked my leg, and thank God, I'm weirdly durable. What's that? What'd she say?
Oh, you want me to open this one too? You want your pick of them? I assume that this is another
Blanket.
I just want to see what they look like.
I know you want to see. This is a. I have no idea. Again, what is Grammy?
What?
Is this a lizard?
What is this?
I don't know. I'm asking you. Oh, it's a dragon. It's a dragon. All right, I got it.
I'm a dragon.
I don't know. I'm not a designer of
Blankets.
things like this. Oh, you can put your hands in this if you want.
Oh,
Right
it's
here.
like a hoodie thing, a robe almost.
It's so it's like a towel material.
Oh, that'd be good when you take her to a water park.
Yeah, well, that's usually what this is for.
Yeah. Okay, I got you.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I know. All right.
Yeah.
All right, go play, okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, do you need me to let you go at all, or?
No. No,
Oh.
they're all right. They've already got dinner and
Oh, good.
it's mac and cheese tonight.
I had mac and cheese last night. I had to. I'm like, I have it. I'm making it. But what was it? So, the first you hit. I'm just happy. I'm durable when it comes to strikes because the leg kicks. Like everyone's just like, oh, he doesn't think anything of that. It's just like, no, later I will. The later my leg will hurt. Now, no, but I honestly thought like when the first couple of seconds I had you against the fence for a minute and then you shot and then that's once again we knew you transitioned to my back like that. I was like, whoa, okay, wait a minute. Yeah, no, that's like a perfect wrestler. It's like he did a down block and everything. He stuffed my head down and you had to just lift me in the air for a fraction of a second and slam me on my head. Why did you have to do that? but then after that, a lot of it, once again, I learned cage work primarily. Because this, by the way, everyone, I don't want to give away all the secrets. This psychopath does not have a cage or wall pads. He has a very sharp concrete wall that him and his teammates decide to do cage work for.
Yes. No, we're not. No, we messed these dream catchers up. We're not making them again.
What do you want to make now?
All right, we could try to make them some other time. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Listen, I have made do and made most of my equipment myself, as you can see by a lot of the DIY stuff that I post on Facebook.
Right.
But
the sharp concrete wall that I went there and I just remember I'm like, okay, this actually hurts to be against, and I'm wearing a shirt. Corey's shirtless with this thing against the wall, just like doing wall walks and stuff, and he's got cuts on his back. I'm like, what in the? I'm like, what is this guy doing?
motivation to not be there.
Yes, and that was really the rest of the fight. Is I couldn't do anything. I was completely stifled. Everything was completely stifled. Like it wasn't even a fact of like me being fatigued. It was like at the end of the fight, I literally sat down because normally even when I lose decisions in boxing, wrestling or something, like in wrestling, it's more straightforward cut. You lost. But in boxing, I would always be like, there's no way in hell I lost that decision. But
Right.
That was really the first time in my life. That's why I sat down. I was like looking around. I'm like, I lost. I'm like, he beat me. Like I was upset for a minute. I'm like, I can't believe, like I can't even find something to dispute about. I personally thought you won all 3 rounds, in my opinion. I don't know why was it majority, they said, decision. Someone gave it to me for some reason, or no. Someone gave me the first round, I think. I'm like, I didn't see it. But
I believe so, yeah.
but that's when everyone's just like, oh yeah, well, he might not know as much, he might not know this, not know that. It's like, hey, you guys are pretty stupid. Like I said, he just manhandled me like the whole 15 minutes or no, my fault. The whole 9 minutes we were in there. I was against the fence. I could not move. I couldn't do anything. It was just a matter of getting up. That's all I could do. I'm like, I said, I'm not going to get pounded out, so I'm just going to get up. I said, but the moment I get back against the fence, I'm screwed again. Like I kind of accepted it. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So that's why I really started working cage work after. That's what my cage work. Like my last fight, I can never remember his name. Billy Brennan. Yes, and I. The whole fight, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to hold him here and see what that does. Obviously, I still got to work on it more with like being offensive. I just kind of held him there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep him here, try to take down here or there. And God, he's 6'6". That was so annoying.
God, what's that like?
Here's the thing. It's like he had, in my view, right, I watched it from the video. I'm like, that was the worst judo trip I've ever seen in my life. But he's so long, it doesn't matter. He just needs to step 2 feet over, and you're like, he just blocked off half my body. So I can't. So, but yeah, I didn't think I lost that fight. I even tell Billy that. I'm like, I don't think I lost that fight. But
I watched that. So I watched that fight a couple different times. I watched it sound on, sound off.
Right.
I was like, and obviously I have a bias. I don't know Billy, but
right.
I have a bias for judo.
Coolest kid on the planet. I love that.
I believe it.
Yeah. Coolest kid.
But so I watched the fight and I was like, so first round I maybe would have given to him, but like second and third I was like, no, I was like, Al definitely edged that out with control time and with time against the cage, and I thought he won that fight.
See, I had it the other way because first second when he pulled guard, which is defensive motion, it's not an offensive motion. And I kept hitting him, and he wasn't doing anything, and the ref stood us up. But yeah,
that was first round?
Yeah, that was first round.
Okay, well then
third round he beat me because I'll be completely honest. I was exhausted. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't know why I was so tired or what it was. That whole training thing. I make no excuses. My depression and stuff was horrible, and I just remember I like missed a lot of training sessions and stuff. And I just remember he took my back. I'm like, no, this isn't happening. And I just shrugged him up a couple times. But the first round, I was hitting him, and they stood us up after like a 2-minute period of time with that. What's going on over there, huh?
Well, do you need something? Honey, you fell asleep on the couch, didn't you? Do you want to say hi to Al?
No.
No? All right. You want to get yourself a snack?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh. I'm going to squeeze you to death now. Yeah, that's right. All right. Will you help Isla get a snack?
Never.
Never? All right. If you want to go watch a show on the iPad, you can, okay? Do you want to go watch a show?
Peppa Pig watch a show.
All right, go watch Peppa Pig. You know where to do. Right, thank you.
I won't keep you very much longer, my man.
No, you're fine. They're okay.
But what was it? Yeah, and then they stood us up after that, and then the second round I took him down, and he like grabbed the leg. He didn't have anything, and I was pounding him out, and they stood us up. I'm like, huh?
Yeah. It was one of this. Yeah, I think that was the stand-up that I saw. That I was like,
I don't fight in Syracuse anymore. I don't fight in Syracuse because here from boxing, I lost 5 times in boxing, but three of my decisions were in Syracuse. Judges were from Syracuse. Fighters were from Syracuse. Then Billy's from Broome County, which is like Binghamton. But I'm trying to think. what she said? She's not gonna watch a certain show.
She just want to watch what her sister was watching.
Uh-oh.
You can sit on my lap. All right.
So, hi there. So,
Hi.
yay. And then Billy, I found out, trained out of Tai Chi which is Syracuse. A lot of the
Yeah.
judges were from ISKA, based out of Syracuse in New York, and a couple other places. And I'm like, and I might be reaching for straws here, but I don't fight in Syracuse anymore. That's all. And so, and that's why I just kind of want to stick to Cage Wars, because like the other experiences and the other promotions I've fought for.
I can try to turn Peppa Pig.
Peppa Pig, huh? Is that the show everyone's watching nowadays?
Apparently, Peppa Pig English episodes. Here you go.
See, I was SpongeBob.
I can tell by the boxing gloves you had made.
Yes, I'm doing a review on those soon. Hopefully next week I'll have those out.
Are you?
Yeah,
I saw those.
I've been slow. I don't know if you can. No, not really. I got this big old brace on because my back. But yeah, that's
Setting up that amazing gym that you got now.
Yeah, I love it. We're almost done. We just got to move. Oh, bro, we had to take apart this universal machine that was from the 60s. And when I tell you that the plates are not able to be taken off of it.
From the runners?
No, not runners. It's they're big, stacked, like they're on these wooden stilts. I mean, not wooden stilts, these metal stilts. You put them in and you slot them into the universal, right?
Yeah.
You have to lift them out. And when I tell you we needed one of my coworkers is part of the Mr. 500 club. He benches that much, and he couldn't get this thing out. So we had to get like 3 people, put it on this roll cart, and we're like, it's just gonna stay there for a while.
Right.
So we still got to move that out. We still got.
I didn't want this picked up. It's gonna stay exactly where it is.
So we have to move all the rest of that out, which is going to take a good chunk of people. Then we got to fix the ceiling, fix the lighting and stuff, and then the whole gym will be done, you know. And then it's just cool because my boxing coach, he started the whole program 2007 or 8 at our place. He was at this other place, and it's for free for kids. And I knew from wrestling and stuff, it's like, Utica, like you said, with Buffalo or some of the kids that you deal with the troubled youth and stuff. Utica, like you said, there's a lot of gang affiliation, mentally disturbed. I mean, there was a really sad statistic we had. Thank God it went down for the wrong reasons because of the virus. People can't be out, but there is a shooting every 3 days in Utica. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
there was I saw numbers yesterday. This is the first spring on record in the past 18 years where there hasn't been a school shooting.
Yeah, and that's sad. So that's one thing I wanted to do is that Proctor High School doesn't have a wrestling program anymore. They got rid of that, which was insane because they were the #1 school in Section 3 for as long as it was around. Then they got rid of it. They favored basketball for it, which I hate to sound this way, but most of the basketball kids I had for my CYO season, I tried my best to help them, but they were all disrespectful. They didn't know what it was like to work hard for something and earn it. They were just like, oh, I'm just going to go outside and shoot hoops all day, and that's it, and skip school. Whereas in wrestling, I remember my high school wrestling coach told me my first year I tried wrestling was in 9th grade, and he said, wrestling is one of the most hardest sports, and it offers very little reward. He said, that's just the reality of it. He's like, and he looked at a lot of us, just like, a lot of you, I'm going to be dead honest, you might suck. He's like, you might never get good at the sport. He's like, you might. He's like, but if you give 100% of your effort, at least you can look and say you completed one of the hardest things there is to do on this planet. And that was basically it. So that's why I wanted to bring wrestling, because all the kids from boxing, a lot of them are from poorer backgrounds. A lot of them that were involved with gangs and stuff. Now, they're in college, they're doing all that stuff. And that's what I wanted to do. Like my coach said with boxing, I want to do a free program with like mixed martial arts and wrestling, and I'm not the best submission guy, but teach that as much as I can and just get these kids, like, show them, hey, you actually have talent and potential to do something else. You don't have to go stealing, shooting, you don't have to go being a gang and do your ridiculous handshakes and stuff. That's one thing. I see these things, they change it every week. I'm like, how do you keep track? I said, what works? Hey man, how are you? But that was just the goal with that gym, which you are going to be the first seminar there. I don't care what anyone else says. And I'm trying to move my MMA gym up there in general, and because we have basically our gym, to give you a brief history about our MMA gyms in the area, and I'm not trying to put anyone on blast, but no one ever gets along all that well, right? You have Duff Holmes with MVMMA, Len Sonia with Dojo One, then you have Mark Giordano with Utica Combat Athletics, right?
Okay.
Duff, I believe, no, Len was around first. He's a legitimate black belt under Tai Kai, which is Team Balance out of Syracuse. And he's been around the longest. Duff Holmes got in touch with Matt Hamill and was his coach. I don't know why they didn't get along, but I remember training at MVMMA. The one big rule was you cannot go train with Dojo One. It's like, gotcha. You know,
Can't train with what?
you can't go train at Dojo One. You can't do it.
It's just another school.
That was Len Sonia, the other gym around our area.
Oh, okay, got it.
You could not go train with Dojo One, and Dojo One's rule was you could not go train at MVMMA. And they had the biggest rivalry ever. Like when we would go to the shows in Utica, like it was like watching Mr. Miyagi and freaking like Cobra Kai. It was insane. You know what I mean? And so it's like watching Oklahoma and Oklahoma State basically wrestle. They hate each other. They always get into heated stuff, and that's what it was. But you know, I was young. I was 14 when I started with Duff, so I'm like, yeah, screw Dojo One and stuff like that. Then Mark had a wrestling program out of it was this place in Frankfort, New York called the Field of Dreams. And it was an indoor sporting complex, and he had wrestling, and he had like some jiu-jitsu lessons. And I guess they didn't sit well because he was with Dojo One, so they kicked him out. And Mark made his own gym because Mark has, I think, like 7, 8 amateur MMA fights. He's only lost 2 of them. He never went pro. He just basically, he always says, I was really stupid when I was young, and my body's paying for it now. He's not even 30 yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there was those things, and he started his own gym, and we're still very young. I went with Mark because he was my Greco coach in high school. He's the one that got me good at wrestling, if you can say good at wrestling. So I went with him, and I did Greco with him, and Duff found out about it. He's just like, you can't go train with that guy. He was with Dojo One. I'm like, oh boy, you know. So there was that. I wasn't allowed to do anything that wasn't MMA training, if that makes any sense. You want one of those guys.
I got it.
And the thing, I love Duff to death. You know, I'm not bashing him at all because it works for him. I mean, obviously, you got 2 of the best guys in the Northeast was Kyle Kaler, who was on my junior Olympic boxing squad, by the way. We were always savage on our feet, you know, but and then Brendan Kennedy, who came into the room, I think he was 15 or 14 and I was 19, and he just blast doubled me through the wall, which was fun. So, you know, but it just came to a point that Duff and I just didn't see eye to eye on a couple things, and we're still friends. We still talk, but I just couldn't train with him anymore. And so I went with Utica Combat Athletics, and that's basically us. But because Mark's brand new, you know, he's finishing up his medical degree, I believe now. So he's very busy.
Congratulations to him.
Yeah,
awesome.
He's very busy, and he has a facility now that's kind of small. You know, and my place isn't the biggest place. You know, we got the ring up now, and we got all the mats. It's about, I think that mat space might be like 1,500 square feet or something. You know, not like 15 in that area, maybe 1,100. But I want to bring him up there just because, you know, it's the Utica Center of Development is where I work, and if you're Utica Combat Athletics, you should have it at the Utica Center for Development. That's my argument with it. And on top of it, he's paying an arm and a leg for the place he's at, and it's a fraction of the size of my place. You know what I mean? And my place isn't the biggest place there is, but, you know, and my coach is all for it. My boxing coach is all for it. And hopefully, I hate to wish it on him like this, but I hope because of the COVID thing, I hope that his leash gets broken so he can come move here, because we wouldn't charge him an arm and a leg like that. Like they're charging him like a lot. I won't release that, but they're charging him a lot for that place, and it sucks. You know, So I just want him to get what he deserves, because he's the sharpest mind in combat sports. He's only 27, 28 years old. You know what I mean? I've met, you know, I always say my boxing coach, for sure. I mean, the guy been around enough. He's 72 years old, still going. He got up this morning and jogged. He still does every day. And it's just like, okay, people are looking at him like, what? Who is that guy? I'm like, that is Willie Wilson. that's Willie Wilson. So I want to bring them up there. That's why I said I want to have more seminars and stuff, because normally we can't have people come out because she's, you know, pulling stuff out of his own pocket to pay the rent. You know what I mean? So that's why I said I want. Yeah.
I get. So that's my question. Is like, so has getting people to come up to do seminars, has that been an issue because of like the friction between the different gyms?
Sometimes, yeah, like
Just because of the affiliations that they have.
personally, if it were me, this is just because I'm younger and peace, man. But no, I'm joking. But if it were me, I wish, Mark has tried bridging that gap, and Mark doesn't really have the rule. Like he says, you can go train with those guys. You're welcome to. He says, but when Mark came out announcing he opened his own gym, they said he didn't know anything. He didn't know. He's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's had 20, 30 amateur boxing matches. He's a black belt in judo. He knows enough. And then on top of it, we're one of the only places around that have actual striking coaches, actual wrestling coaches, actually like separate people for separate things.
Yeah.
Because Mark admitted, I can't know anything. I can't know everything, rather. So that was it with that. And that's why, it's been an issue, because if it were me, I'd love to train with Kyle Kaler again. You know what I mean? I remember he was my team captain when I was 12 years old starting out. He was 15, and he was phenomenal to work with. I've invited him back to the gym, but there's the powers that be. No, you can't box because it's not specific for MMA training.
Yeah.
So that
I've always struggled with stuff like that. And, the MMA mafia mentality behind stuff like that. I say that lightheartedly, but it's proof positive when I hear you talk about stuff.
Right.
Like you and I kind of touched on this a little bit. You and I have been talking for over a year now about
right.
But I struggle. Like, I wouldn't charge people to come in and grapple with me if I didn't have to, as far as to have something to show for
right.
The time that I put in, just because I love the thing so damn much. But and I struggle with the idea of charging stuff for that, because I don't own knowledge. Like I
right.
don't own. And I mean, have I spent time perfecting it? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I have. And that's more on me and my obsessive tendencies than anything else. But as far as like people saying like, no, you can't train with this person. Like I struggle with that, because it sounds like that
right.
comes from a place of fear, because it sounds like they're afraid that they're going to lose that person.
Right.
And it's like, you never own that person. Like
right.
you never own that person. And I get protecting what's yours. I get that. But I don't know. I really struggle with the idea behind, like, yes, you can train here. No, you can't train here. Like, that just sounds fascist. There's no other word for it. There's no other word for it.
Like, no, I hear you, man. And that's how I felt. Obviously when I was like 14, 15 years old, you get a painted picture and your brain's still developing, and you still, you don't understand. But, what caused Duff and I to leave was actually just a really big dispute. It was a miscommunication. Tim Kronk, I was supposed to fight him. I was 19 or 20, 19. And basically I said, I'll fight if it's okay with Duff, because I still think that's something every fighter should do. I don't think you should go behind your coach's back and just accept the fight. I think that's a team decision, because you're still representing that place. You're still their student, you know what I mean? And if you just say, I'm going to go and do nothing that's the lack of discipline to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like one thing my coach says is, he says, if you're going to box with my team, he says, I have your USA boxing book unless you leave somewhere. He's like, because I will not let you box if you haven't been training. Because he just says, I've never had anyone get hurt. It's like, we've never had.
That's smart. And
right,
that's personal safety. And I get that.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that, but I don't agree with, you can only train here. You can only fight specific people. You can only do this. And I just make sure it's okay with Duff. And Duff interpreted that as, oh, he accepted the fight without me, which was not true. And
that put me in his bonnet about it.
Right. And so we separated from that, and for a couple of months we weren't cool, and then afterwards me and him went to the show, started hugging each other again, sorry this is all happening, and he moved into a really, really nice new spot. I'm so happy for him, because dude is a legitimately hardworking guy. You can't take that away from him, and he worked for what he's got, and he has what he has because of the blood, sweat, and tears, money, effort, years he won't ever get back from his life. You know what I mean? So I respect him for all of that, but it's just I didn't see eye to eye on one thing. That was all.
Yeah.
But with that, so that's why I want to bring Mark up, because you have You have all the experience in the world here. One of our coaches, he's Bang Muay Thai certified. He lived in Colorado for a while. We have
Oh,
another
nice.
another jiu-jitsu coach that trained with Anthony Smith for years. He never did the belt thing. He only did no-gi, and then he starts doing gi classes. Turns out he's a ninja with that. And so what was it? He had his white belt on, and then I think it was promotions, and they gave him his brown belt. they're like, why are you giving him his brown belt? Because you're kicking everyone's ass. He said the only people that aren't doing that to you is like Anthony Smith and the other savages are like black belts that have been doing this for 12, 15 years. It's like, you've been doing it for 3. so,
That's fair.
so that's basically what it was. So we have him. We have, like I said, Central New York is just a breeding ground for savage wrestlers for some reason. I don't know what it is, what they put in the water here. And they all come in groups of like 6 or something. Like, no joke. My friend Lakin, Landry, and Tanner Cook, Landry didn't wrestle in college, but Lakin and Tanner wrestled Division I at North Dakota State or South
Yeah.
Dakota, whichever school is the Jackrabbits. But they have, let's see, in order, Lakin, Landry, Tanner, Kai, Case, and 6. No joke, the kid's name is 6. So
That's amazing.
so there's 6, but they're all like savages, and that's just what it's like around here. They all come in groups of 3 or 4.
Yeah.
In their case 6, but and so we have a lot of coaches that'll do that. Jiu-jitsu, it's Mark and 2 or 3 other guys that have their brown and purple belts will teach. We have a couple blue belts that teach like basics and stuff.
Yeah.
A couple Muay Thai coaches. I coach boxing, and that's something that I love is that Mark flat out, like the first time I ever asked if I could like help out, he says, do you mind if you coach me for like a week or 2 so I can see what your teaching style is? So, I can teach it to my guys if you're never not there. I love hearing that stuff just
Right.
because I think having a closed mind in combat sports is like in music, right? I always associate the two just because people are like, how do you deal with pressure in the cage? I don't get nerves really because in music school you performed every other week. You know what I mean? Like you were always in front of people like 1,000 people or more, right? Just what happened. That's how it was.
You're better than me. That's awesome.
but people are like, you don't get some nerves. I'm like, don't get me wrong. There's still always the butterflies in your stomach, but they go away like that. The moment the bell rings, it's like, I can't have that anymore. I'm going to get in trouble. And so with music, you couldn't be closed-minded. We literally had this thing called performance concentration. I love this. Combat sports is nice because people will be nice to you and be like, you did great. And music school that was horrible. You should be ashamed of yourself. Go sit in the practice room for the next day. Don't come out until this is corrected or I'm failing you. And basically, we had this thing called performance concentration. And I remember my first time I did good. And my professor said, yeah, that was a good job. And it was our whole peers, your whole jury, it was called, basically. You would have all of your people in the brass. I'm a trombone player, so all the trumpet, tuba, and everyone else would be in that class with you. Everyone had to give you a minute-long critique of what they thought sucked, basically. So we had a class of 20 kids. And I remember my second time, I messed up so bad, I stopped and said, I'm sorry, I can't keep going. My professor looked at me, what do you mean you can't keep going? You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? And then everyone in that class for the next 20 minutes
Just ripped you apart.
yeah. So when people tell me like that technique's wrong and they're like, it's okay, you'll get it. It's just like, oh, I know, I'm going to practice it until I can't get it wrong but everyone's so nice in combat sports and they're like, why are you so harsh with things? Because sometimes I'm not like that with combat sports, but with music, I was. There were some times I was the principal trombonist, and I remember, I'm sorry, it's your interview. I'm taking it from you, but
No, it's fine. Listen, I played trombone for like a year and a half. Shout out, Mr. Shenawolf. How are you? And my best friend played French horn.
That's a hard instrument.
But like it was just like I can't read music. I never could read music. So I'm just like watching like I'm like watch like seeing and I'm like trying to like second guess like I'm like, oh my god, this is awful. Like so I mean I give you a lot of credit for being able to do anything with that. Like that's amazing.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I came from, my dad's a keyboardist and he played music like in high school and college and stuff too. You know, he went to school for
How's his shoulder, by the way?
He's good. It was his
or bicep.
Bicep? I think bicep. Yeah, he blew out his bicep. Actually from music.
Doing shoulder presses with it or something like that.
No, he was smart and decided I'm going to lift this 200-pound keyboard case and keyboard over my head. And the moment he did that, click, boom, gone. And I think it's starting to sit. He's only 52, but I think he's starting to understand he's getting older, and he's not Superman anymore. But that's the other thing. He still has that competitive mentality. The guy played a year for the New York Mets. You know what I mean? So I mean,
That's baseball.
yeah. I know, right? That's me. I quick story, and then I'll go back to everything. But basically, eighth grade came along. I could try out for modified baseball. My dad had ordered the $600 brand new custom bat with my name on it and everything.
Oh my god.
Oh boy, I got there were 3 days of tryouts, and they were 2 hours each. I got cut a half hour into the first day because I was that bad. I know. I laugh at it too. I did not like baseball. I found it incredibly boring. I was not good at it.
So boring.
I was not good at it. I knew if I made contact, if my dad was the best hitter in our high school's history, I knew I got that taught to me, right? I knew I sent it flying. I had a little league record for most home runs, but that was only if I made contact with it, which might have been once or twice every other game. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just didn't like it because I was in the outfield. I would literally stand there like, is the ball come? Nope. Okay. I'll just go back to La La Land here. And so that's all it was. But I started boxing when I was 12. I was in seventh grade, and I'm like, I love this stuff. I want to keep going. And I wanted to tell Dad I hated baseball. I don't want to play anymore. So I came home, said I got cut. He's like, Babe Ruth is right around the corner, though. You know, that's during the season for kids that didn't make the team. He's like, don't worry, we're going to get you playing. I said, Dad, I hate baseball. Only time in my life he ever looked at me with disappointment was that. He's like, he's like, what? And I said, I hate baseball. I was like, oh. He's like, I guess I'll send this bat back then and stuff. And I remember I cried that night, and I remember talking to my mom and my grandparents. I'm like, I think I really let Dad down. And then he saw me when I won my first Silver Gloves tournament. That's when he's just like, this is awesome. Like he's buying me all this stuff for it, and then he was in full support of it, obviously. But baseball, that did bum him out. And I asked him that. I said, were you upset? And he kind of looked at me. He's like, as your father, I should answer no. is what he said. He didn't say anything else. He's, as my father, I should answer no. So, but music I got from him.
I have no idea. Like, I have no earthly clue, like, what my girls are going to be good at. Like, I mean, I have no idea. Like, if I had to put it up in the air right now, I mean, Isla is gaga about horses and can't wait until she can get back and, like, try to, like, start riding horses again.
Oh,
so,
cool.
Like, Daddy, can we go? I'm like, I don't know. But, and the same token, like, I mean, you know, she constantly is actually, Daddy, can we wrestle? She's like, show me that choke again, Dad. And I'm like, I don't want you choking people, just, you know. She's like, how about the arm bar? And I'm like, Mom said no, so we're gonna not today. Like,
right. And
then, I mean, Elena is just, she was super cute and coy a few minutes ago, but she's an absolute savage. And then Nora is just, I don't know what Nora is just, she's just Nora right now. Just like, she's still figuring herself out.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. But yeah, you know, I learned music primarily from my dad too. But I when you said you couldn't read music, I could read it, but not very well until college came around. I remember my wind ensemble director was the hardest individual I've ever met in my life, Brett Weary. Brett L. Weary, my bad. Brett L. Weary. He looked at me one day, and he had a peculiar ear, and I messed up counting in one piece, and this is when everyone's playing. He stopped. He's like, hey, Alex. Like, he just knew. He knew it was me. And he just looks at me and says, can you count to 3?
Oh, ow.
And I said, yeah. And he's just like, can you do that for me? I said, 1, 2, 3. Why didn't you do that 5 minutes ago? He's like, you screwed up the entire rehearsal. Thanks. And I'm like sitting there. I'm like, yes, sir. And, you know, and this is also November comes around. I knew with jazz and stuff and rock because that's where I grew up around with my dad in cover bands and stuff. So technically I've been playing professionally since I was 14. But, you know.
You just throw that out there.
But like, it's different from their view of professional. Like, music's like weird. Like, they'll never learn. And basically, November came around, and my professor looked at us, the same guy. He said, if you want to prove a point to your family that you're serious about this, practice on Thanksgiving. He says, practice for 4 hours a day. For 4 hours on Thanksgiving, you can go eat if you want. He's just like, that's optional. He said eating's optional. I'm like, oh my God. And so I went up to him and said, that's a really inspirational story. He's just like, yeah, I'm not going to lie. I'm going to write you up and recommend that you get demoted from the degree to the certificate program because you are awful. I'm like,
yo,
oof.
Seriously?
Oof. Yeah. It's just like you need another year of schooling because your theory grades aren't great. Your oral skills grades aren't great. This isn't great. And on top of it, he says, you're good with jazz. Don't get me wrong. He's like, but you can't read for shit. I'm like, okay. And so after that, I basically turned my whole life around. I gained about 40 pounds and said, I'm going to sit inside the practice room for 4 hours a day and get better. And then, in my humble opinion, I became the best brass player that was there at the time just because that was it. But I lost a lot of time with music, and I've never been that big. I was 200 pounds when I went into college. The heaviest I ever got was 273. I gained all.
When I was an undergrad, the heaviest I ever got in undergrad was like 260. Yeah, probably like 260.
Yeah, and that was just it. But music changed my life as far as anything went because people says that was bad. It's like, okay, it was bad. I understand that. I'll fix it, And that's why like people like my boss came in and she's like, hey Al, I don't mean to like go over a nitpicky thing, but you had a typo here. And he was like saying, I'm sorry for bringing it up with me. I'm like, for a typo? I'm like, what? Let me go fix it. So I went and fixed it, printed out the form and gave it to him. I'm just like, you don't have to be sorry about that. And we're like, a typo? I thought I like messed the whole document up. I'm like, oh shit, it was the wrong thing or something. No.
He didn't ask you to count to 3 at all.
No, but that's the funny part because after that, me and Mr. Worry became like that after.
Yeah.
Because he saw I was really the only one that took his advice and like.
But you were trying, that you put the effort in.
Yeah, and I proved it because he would ask me, can you go do this? I said, I'm kind of practicing.
Right.
And he pulls me in the center of the common area. It's just like, you see this young man here? I like him. I don't like a lot of you. And there's a thing on his door, and it says, if you practice, I like you. If you don't practice, I'm simply being polite.
Yeah. I get that. That makes sense.
But that's a different story. Oh, man. So before I let you go, I just want to ask one or two more questions about some combat sports stuff that people might actually be interested in doing this. Because on my channel, once you come down here, I'd like to do a video or two with you showing some moves.
Yeah.
When it comes to you and your personal learning experience, maybe you pick up faster than others. Maybe it's just the constant repetition. What is it that kind of gets you out of bed every day to like be like, I want to keep doing this? That's a big question I always get on the channel.
That's a huge question.
Yeah.
And this may be a bigger answer than you want on something like this, but
I'm not looking for a particular answer. Go for it.
It used to
Wrong.
be.
No, I'm sure.
Yeah. Can you count to 3? So, like, it used to be an exercise. I'll be completely honest. It used to be vanity. Like, it used to be an exercise in vanity. Like,
right.
It used to be. This is the first athletic endeavor that you've ever been good at in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
It would growing up, I did cross country running. I'm awful at it. I'm not built for it.
Cross country.
Yep.
Wow.
6 years. Shout out to Mr. Turner and Mr. Eschels. I did that for 6 years. I was abysmal at it. Like, there were like stories about like me showing up to like cross country meets and stuff like that, and then being like, "Oh, it's cute. You guys have a water boy." It's just like, it's like no. I played lacrosse. And the only reason I was halfway decent at that is because I was on a really good line with a friend of mine, Taylor Ward, and then another, one of my other best friends, Andrew Danis. I kind of just, I was wherever they needed me to be, and I kind of took their lead, and I worked hard with that. And I had a great coach, Bucky Brandt. Shout out Bucky. I was okay at that. But as far as like athletics, I was never really good at anything.
Right.
And then I started doing it, and it just made sense. I don't know if it was, my background in sculpting. I don't know if it was just that for whatever reason, it just clicked. And it started making sense on how to like tie knots and how to, get people to the ground. And like, it was like, oh, like, I'm kind of, there are parts of me that fit this. And the parts of me that don't fit this, like I can work on getting better to find the holes in other people's game to make it go my way. So it started out as vanity. And that's being as honest as I can be. Like I just, I craved that getting better and that recognition of people being like, oh, like, you're good at this. And it was like, me, oh, you. So like, and people talk to me now and they're like, okay, the nice guy humble act is getting old. And the only reason that it's real is because, I was on the other end of the spectrum. Like I was that guy who was just like, yeah, I am that good.
Gotcha.
And I was smart enough to not say that out loud. But I definitely, like, I felt that. And then that's why I think, like, I really wasn't ready to take MMA as seriously as I am now. Then I had my girls. I had Isla. And, having, Elena and Nora, and obviously I love them to death. But Isla changed my life.
Right.
And it was a changing my life and like a, clicking things into perspective of being like, I want to set the example of things like this being hard but worth it. I want all the hours that I've dumped into this to mean something, and like wanting a legacy to be like, your dad was never really, the strongest or the fastest, or technically wasn't the best, but he got up, like, and that's what and people ask, like, what do you want, the moniker to be? And you've asked me like nicknames and stuff like that, like, but like I just want them to see that, and like I'm building a body of work now where people know me as a good person, and know me as somebody who has a good work ethic, and that's been put onto film, and like you hear people talk about that, and I've attracted a lot of really talented people to work with me on it, and to get up and work with those people gets me out of bed too.
Right.
And the fact that I'm passing that along in some small way to them, great. And the fact that I get to work with such great people is another reason. But it's the drive to show them that you cannot be built for the things that you're passionate about in this life, and you can have all of the wrong attributes. You can be too short. You can have short little T-Rex arms. You can have tiny hands. You can you can have all of those things working against you, but you can find a way. You can find a way to make it work. And so that thought gets me up out of the or it gets me up and gets me to training. It's not what has helped me necessarily, like in my fights, as far as my mentality behind it, but it definitely. I'm talking about you. Did you hear me? I changed my mind. I take back everything I just said. It's just a vanity now. Get away from me. I'm very busy and important.
I love your fluffy beard.
You love my fluffy beard? I'm shaving it off now.
Aww.
Did you eat chocolate?
Yeah.
What chocolate? We don't have chocolate in the house. Where did you get it? Oh, you got Nutella? Where's the? Where's the Nutella?
Uh-oh.
No. Where is the Nutella?
Corey wants the Nutella now.
Are you getting it? What are you doing? Are you going for a guillotine? Oh. Get off of me. Anyway.
Super dead right there. I don't care what anyone says. That's super dead.
Is that what that is?
That's
is super dead?
That's super dead.
If that hair is in my face, it's technically mine and I'm pulling it. Oh, God. Did you lick me? Oh. Get off of me. Go bother your sister. Is Nora up yet? Can you go see if she's awake, please? This is the last one forever. I hope it counts. I hope you like it. Who hugs better, Daddy or Grammy? Yeah, that's right. Go get Nora, please.
No.
Can you say bye to Al?
No.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that later. So yeah, that's my motivation right there.
I think I've seen. I haven't seen the other one. Nor I haven't seen Nora yet. But
She'll get up and she'll look like I call her Star Child. Like she just has this like what? Like I can't even.
that looks like that's as much motivation as you there. Because I remember when you beat James your last fight, which we didn't talk about that very much. You smashed him to bits. That's probably why. But he after the fight, Corey gets in front of the camera and it says, "Girls, Dad loves you very much." It like screams it at the camera. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, Corey, there you go. That's what you scream after you just win the belt and stuff.
I did that after our fight too.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I got up like, and you can't hear it in the, but yeah, I did the same thing. Like I was just like, because at the, Isla saw the fight with Nick.
Yeah.
And she was like, Daddy, she's like, you're trying to hurt people. And I was like, yes. And she was like, they can hurt you. And I was like, yeah. She's like, you need to let me know if you're okay every single time. I was like, how about I just tell you that I love you after the fight? She was like, that might be okay. And I was like, well, all right then. So I've been doing that. I've been doing that after the fights.
Oh, well, there's a good reason.
Yeah.
Now, other question. I guess you can see these are scripted questions, but
No, that's fine.
who's someone you looked up to as far whether it be catch wrestling, boxing, MMA? Like who's like name a couple idols that like because I always I ask people who's your favorite. You should be your own favorite guy, but who do you idolize? You know what I mean?
I am not my own favorite guy.
You should be.
Yeah.
Even I have to think that way.
So it definitely goes based on like striking styles. Like for boxing, my favorite boxer is Joe Louis. I love
good man.
Watching. Yeah,
good man.
I love watching how he would bait people into like coming in, and the way that he would slip and just throw that right hand, and I mean he killed people with it. Like
yeah.
So yeah, Joe Louis for boxing. For Thai, I think Buyaka, in the way that he's able to throw his push kicks, is absolute poetry in motion. There's nothing wasted on them. He can make his right foot go wherever he wants to go, and it's a sniper rifle.
Right.
I think it's amazing. I struggle with for wrestling. It's always been Karelin. I love watching him wrestle. I love watching the look on people's faces when that Russian would just lock his hands on things, and you'd be like, "What? No!" The look of terror.
Who are you wrestling next? I think we got that Russian over there. Oh, cool. I'll see you later, man. I forgot I have my oven running 6 countries over.
And he would like watching him like drag a refrigerator full of weights through the Russian winter. Like I'm just like, oh no, it's insanity.
Jesus.
And then for BJJ, I mean, I think Marcelo Garcia is probably one of the nicest human beings on the planet, and also just watching him, work his magic on the ground is great. Watching how he's been able to kind of get the crucifix in a no-gi position and make that work for him, I think is spectacular. Even though I think he has flashbacks and is fearing for his life when he fights, I think Paul Harris, I love watching Paul Harris.
Yeah.
His leg locks are nothing short of lethal. And I wish that he had made better decisions when he was in the ring so that we could still see him fight.
I hear you.
I think he's dynamic and exciting, and I think he understood how leg locks worked in an MMA setting. But yeah, I used to love watching Tocaino. And as far as like full like MMA, like I mean, my greats are usually like I mean Fedor is just phenomenal to watch. his ground and pound is how I've tried to style my ground and pound. I like, George, you can't say enough good things about George St. Pierre.
Oh, absolutely.
I like the way that I like every aspect of his game. I wish that he was a little more dynamic on the ground, but I understand what he did just to win and to be as dominant as he was.
He was so good.
Oh yeah. I think I like watching a lot of the new guys now are really fun to watch too. Jacare is lethal on the ground. Adesanya is just fun to watch. I love watching how he moves. It's almost more fun to watch Adesanya move and not pull the trigger.
Right.
And watching him, the way that he uses negative space and sees it and decides, nope, I'm just going to touch it. It's like, nope, just going to touch it. Nope. And watching him make those choices and those decisions mid-fight. And this is going to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, and I'm not doing that. But watching him do that on the feet feels a lot like it feels for me on the ground.
Yeah.
Because when I'm grappling, have you ever seen the Robert Downey Jr. version of Sherlock Holmes?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I fought Spencer, I kind of it works a lot like that. Like, it's like, okay, dollars notice he's going to throw this, which means he's going to go off by this, and then just deciding which avenue you're going to take. And it's not like, oh, time slows down.
Right.
As you've been in the fire enough. Hold on one second. I'm just going to get a light real quick.
No, go for it. Whoa.
I know, right? But being able to see like the holes in people's game and knowing like where they're going to go, like with James, that's a perfect example. Like, I saw that he was probably not going to try to kick me because he thought that I was going to take him down. But he was committing really heavy on that lead jab. And so I was like, okay, if he's going to throw that lead jab, wait till he steps, go for the low single, because he's not going to be able to get his leg back as fast as, as you were. Just push in, and that worked. And then the riding time, and everything else. And it was, Will and Kyle were talking about me taking my time and being methodical in it.
Right.
And that's to some extent true, but it was more along the lines of me just literally just taking wind out of his sails and trying to weigh on him and get him to start hearing that. And then, okay, now I can progress from there. And at the end of the round is when I started to hear that. It's like, okay, now I can turn it up.
That's one thing, like, with everyone says you can hear Will and Kyle. I don't know how people say that. I can't hear a damn thing that's also me. That's like my zone, is like everything just kind of zones out. I just hear my coaches and my opponent's breath. That's really
I couldn't hear them during. I knew that.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I'm sorry.
No, it was afterwards. Yeah, I can't hear anything like that either. And I just, I have in my head. The only person that I can hear is Adrian Morales. Shout out to AJ. In the second round when I took James down into the corner, I was right there, and I took him down, and I hear him like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" I was just like, "What?" I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "So, yeah, do whatever you want to do." I was like, "Oh, good, thanks." He's like, just no elbows, no, you can't,
right,
just keep your finger out of his butthole. I was like, "Thanks, AJ."
Oh man.
But yeah, a lot of the new guys are really, really fun to watch. I like watching. Who is the? Shoot. Damn.
Weight class?
Light heavy. It's he looks like the main character from Wolfenstein.
Oh.
I actually think it's like Blackowitz or Black.
John Blasphemous?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks exactly like that guy from Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
And I no disrespect to him, but just watching the way that he's able to, and he's definitely got a workman style of striking where it's you're gonna hit me and I'm gonna hit you harder. And he does have that, but it's also it's pretty measured as far as he knows when to pull the trigger and which punch to deliver. So it's fun to watch that.
Right. That's awesome. I love it. I'm surprised Randy Couture wasn't on that list anywhere.
Listen, Randy Couture is in a very different category. Randy Couture is in father figure. Randy Couture is
Okay.
in.
Okay. I got you. I'm sorry, Corey.
I like watching. I mean, my favorite fight of all time is when he came out of retirement and fought Tim Sylvia, and then when he
Can
fought.
I like this on you?
Oh God, no! What do you do? Oh my God!
Can I like this on you?
That Nutella?
Yeah, it's Nutella. Where did you find Nutella? And you need to go put it away. Go, otherwise it's bath. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. It's bath time. God, I'm so happy that was Nutella. You're not gonna put this on my shirt. This shirt was given to me. Huh? What happened to Peppa Pig? Did you eat her too?
No.
She tastes good? Get her out of here. We're gonna do dessert soon, okay? Put that back. Now, please. Thank you. Put that back too. No, Viola. Hey, did you see Nora yet?
I won't put you in bed.
Get out of here.
One more question, I'm going to let you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Hold on, guys. Hold on 1 second, okay? I'm almost done.
So, and thanks for doing this long, by the way. We do appreciate
You
it.
guys want my lap for the last question? Okay, come here.
So because they're part of the decision too. Of course, they're part of the decision too.
Oh.
So you're steamrolling people in the amateurs now. It's coming to a point to where it's realistically it's you and Yuri is the fight right now. You would say, right? You and Yuri, I'd say. Do I need to say it again?
No, I heard you. You're saying that Yuri and I are fighting.
So realistically, that's really it. You know, there's that Rob Wagner guy that was around, but I think he's done. Billy, I'd say, but I don't know if he's ever going to go back down to 205 or not. Maybe.
So Tim was throwing the name Jason Miller around.
Jason Mayhem Miller.
No. Hey, whoa. And I'm maybe it's Jason Manning. But they're throwing that name around for the Philly card.
Okay.
And that's apparently taking place in June, I hope.
Okay.
Hey, look at me. Hey, calm down.
Okay.
Thank you. It's almost done, okay? I know. Hold on.
Hi.
Do me a favor. Will you go put this away? Hey. Put this away, please.
Never.
Hey.
Bye.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and that was scheduled for June before all of it happened. But I hope so.
Right.
And then after that, the idea was to see if there's any pro organizations.
Okay, so that was the big question because I wasn't sure. Because there comes a point where, like with someone like Jeremy Woolfolk, right? He lost against that Russian guy, and I forgot somewhere. But it comes to a guy like him. It's like when it comes to amateurs, the way he's just thrashing people. It just comes to a point to where you need to like move on to that next level. You know that was like with boxing. I'm not trying to hype my own self up.
Thank you.
But it basically came to a point to where it was like, okay, it was getting increasingly difficult to find guys. Like even when I turned 17 and you can box people that are in their 30s and stuff now and that are older, it was very difficult to It was very difficult to find fights. Or if you go to the place, you'd weigh in and they're like, I'm not fighting him. Do you think it's ever going to be an issue? Like say if you run through this that Jason guy, or if you fight Yuri, that's going to be my favorite fight to watch. I love both you guys. But say you fight Yuri and you steamroll through him even, like you've been pretty. Hamdi was legitimately your toughest fight. Honestly, like as far as the name goes, was your toughest fight. Where it comes down to, don't be saying me. Don't be doing.
I'm 100% going to be saying me.
But
because here's the thing.
in the Hamdi fight, I knew I was winning. I didn't think I was winning the fight with you.
You're crazy.
And so far, I mean, you and I are both realists enough, and we are also, humble enough to say, you did really well, and you were the hardest fight that I've had so far.
The hardest what?
Hardest fight that I've had.
Well, I do appreciate that. You're by far my hardest fight I've had. And everyone's just like, why? You got tapped out in your last fight. He's like, yeah, but there are a lot of stuff going there. I said, that fight, my decision to win was taken away from me. You know what I mean? I couldn't do none. But, so pro is your goal after this fight in Philly, if it happens.
Pro is the goal after this. And then from there, we'll see. It all depends on if, I know. It all depends on if, there's an organization out there who's willing to sign. Is this your version of a crucifix? Because this is pretty lame.
I think there's going to be a lot of pro organizations out there that are going to love to have Corey Norman, probably the guy to dethrone John Jones one day. But we'll talk about.
What's that?
I said probably the guy to dethrone John Jones one day, but we'll come to that one. We'll come to that when that happens.
I'm just staring down Father Time at this point. I just turned 35.
That's not bad. You're fine. Randy Couture was almost 50. Dan Severn didn't start till he was 37. Come on. You're fine.
True.
You're fine.
You're calling me this generation's Randy Couture. That's an even bigger step.
So cool. That's awesome. We'll be looking forward to you. If you want to give a shout out to anybody, if you want to drop your credentials below. I know Instagram is Coco Kaboom, correct?
It is Coco Kaboom, yes.
Okay, and then Facebook, just Corey Norman. Do you have any other?
Corey Norman, yeah.
You got Twitter or anything you want people to check out?
I don't have Twitter.
Good, because it's useless.
So shout out to, hey, you want to help me give shout outs? You don't have no idea what a shout out is. 11-faced little cartoon. So shout out to Isla, Elena, and Nora, who is my kindest child, who's not causing a mess or a ruckus. And this one who's just taking apart chalk on the floor like a convict. And shout out to all of my team: Gerald, Jeff, Jason, AJ, Cole, Tommy, Josh, G, who I still haven't seen yet, but that's all right. And shout out to Evermore Athletics. Get off of me. Shout out to Doc Sullivan's, who still has the best wings in Buffalo. They're still open, guys, so make sure that you patron them. Julie's Pizza. Let's see. All of my tattoo places are closed right now. I've actually learned how to start tattooing myself.
I see you. I like it.
I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. We're going to see. You're like a koala right now. And oh my God, get off the table. Anyway, you guys think you're hysterical, and the moment that this, oh my God, I'm throwing you in a snowbank. Shout out to OPMMA. Shout out to the Combat Corporation.
Hey.
And shout out to my girl. Oh God, that'll be bad. Shout out to my girl Liz, who won her last fight.
Yeah, she did. We got to do an interview with her next.
Yeah.
Get her involved.
And hopefully her son won't be as misbehaved as these bunch of heathens. And oh my God.
Almost there, Corey.
Yeah. Jesus. I blame the Nutella. Get off of me. But yeah, and thank you for the opportunity of
Anytime you want on, my man.
Craziness.
Anytime you want on, my man, just let me know.
Thanks.
Awesome. All right, guys, that was Corey Norman. Check him out on his social media. Check him out for his next fight, which hopefully is in June if all this stuff pans out. We'll all be rooting him here at the Combat Corporation, of course, which consists of me. So, yes, I'm rooting for you. And then we'll let him go, get back to his kids and all this craziness going on in the back. Good luck, Corey, and we'll see you soon. I'll talk to you soon, my man.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.